This is Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles from Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors. Retirement isn't just about saving, it's about having a strategy that helps you navigate market ups and downs, combat inflation, and secure the future you deserve. That's why Financially Fit Radio is here to tackle your biggest financial concerns, share actionable strategies, and help you move toward your retirement goals with confidence. And now, here's Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles.
Welcome back to another episode of Financially Fit Radio. I'm Cory Sickles with Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors. If you'd like any information about anything that's discussed on today's show, feel free to give us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can always visit our website at safeharboroh.com. And while you're on our website, feel free to click on that radio page. You can check out some past shows, as well as subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or Spotify. Also, feel free to type in Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors when you visit YouTube. You can watch today's show, previous shows, and you can also subscribe so you can be kept up to date with all of our Financially Fit video shorts, which are about 3 or 5 shorts a week on different types of financial topics. Well, April is Financial Literacy Month. So today what we're going to do is we have a special guest on the show, another advisor from Reno, Nevada that I've met through Gradient Financial Group. And we're going to just kind of discuss on how we educate our clients on different types of financial topics. But before we dive into that, let me introduce to you my co-host this week and every week, and that's Tony Shore. Tony, how's Minneapolis?
Oh, the Minneapolis doing great. Thank you for having me on your show, Cory. It's great to be here. I'm excited about the episode today. We've got a great special guest, one of the top advisors. He's out in Nevada, and that's awesome, Cory. I'm looking forward to the show today. But I've had a great week, just really busy. How about you? How have you been?
You know, Tony, it's April. Woke up today. We had frost, ice. I mean, I thought spring was around the corner. I feel like I'm up in Minnesota.
Yeah. It's still been dropping it was 26 degrees this morning when I got up. So
I was there last week in April there, and it was snowing up in Minneapolis. So,
I know.
I'm just kind of looking forward to getting up, and it's going to be in the 60s and 70s about every day. And I'm a 50 guy plus golfer. I don't like to golf unless it's above 50 degrees.
Sure.
Well, I'm getting antsy now.
I think we're going to start seeing 50 plus days soon, but 60s, 70s, and 80s. I think we might have to wait until May, at least here in Minnesota. Maybe there in Iowa as well. Of course, the weather's always great in Nevada. We should probably bring our special guest.
Yeah, bring him on. We're going to bring on Jesse Abshire. He's with Abshire Family Financial out of Reno, Nevada. How are you, Jesse?
I'm great. And I'm over here, being jelly talking about all this warm weather that we don't have yet.
Oh,
I was in Vegas over the weekend. It was a nice 70 degrees though.
Oh, yeah. Wow. That's nice. How about Reno, where you're at?
I think we're hoping for a 50 today.
Oh, wow. So it's still pretty cool there.
It's getting there. Reno is one of those cities where you'll wake up and you'll look outside to see what the weather is, because in an hour it's going to be different.
Right.
But wait, I heard about this fair weather golfing there, Cory.
Yeah, I am a fair weather golfer. I know you're a golfer too, but yeah, I don't like to golf unless it's above 50.
That's fair.
It's usually wind chill too.
Yeah.
So we're not golfing up in Minnesota till like June then.
I think a lot of the golf courses don't open up till like late May, early June.
Yeah,
actually,
late May in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I actually have no idea how they make money. The season's got to be like 4 or 5 months up there.
Yeah, if that. Yeah,
if that. Yeah.
Well, I think they make the money. It's very costly for members up there.
Touche.
Yeah, so, the memberships are really expensive. Yeah.
It's that play for 4 months, but pay for 12. Got it.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, a lot of people love golf here. They have boats, they have convertibles, they have swimming pools, and they can use those things about 3 or 4 months out of the year.
Yeah. See, this is why I'm trying to move to Vegas.
Yeah, year round, right?
Yeah.
And I don't ski, so Minnesota's not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, snowmobiling, skiing, ice
Yeah.
fishing, hockey, that's what we're known for.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I snowboard about, let's say, about 10 times a year in Tahoe, but
That's
I
nice.
I could come up and visit for that, you know.
Heavenly is a great place. I love that place.
Heavenly is my favorite.
Yeah.
And you remember what's unique about it, right?
Well, it's been years since I've been there, but I used to go up there when I lived in California.
It's the only mountain that you can actually ride in 2 states in one day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
California and Nevada. Yep.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
Actually, last time I was in Tahoe, I got married.
Oh, well,
You got married in Tahoe?
Which is over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. I think I'm gonna have to pull him out for some golf this summer then, Tony.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
I was there. The last time I was there is 1993.
Okay.
Or
It's about when I
92.
was. That's about when I got married.
Yeah.
It
And
is
then
when I-
you lived in Nashville too.
got-
That's
yeah.
funny.
Yeah,
We
I
have a
got married
lot
in
in common.
Got married in 94. So,
Wow.
well, one of the nice parts about attending, grading events, Tony, is we were able to, meet different types of advisors, which is where I met Jesse. And one of the things I thought we would share today, since it is Financial Literacy Month here in April, is just kind of discuss on how we educate, clients. I think education is one of the biggest things that we really try to stress for our clients. And when I say educate, we don't want them to know everything, but they should know why, at least at a high level, and why we actually do things or recommend things or want to implement things. And obviously, I think one of the things I think is a good place to start today is with the market where it is. We're getting a lot of, I'm sure a lot of advisors out there are getting calls, emails. There's a lot going on within the market, obviously, here in April, and with the tariffs. So, Jesse, what do you think you do from your standpoint of trying to be able to educate clients during, periods where there's a lot of volatility or stress in the market?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think we try to keep it simple over here. I know you and I kind of talked before we got on here about messaging that you send out to clients. But I think it's really important to understand that, strategies that we build these things not only, stress tested, but also for decades. And as we look back historically in the stock market or any type of really investment, I mean, there's ebbs and flows all the time. And it's reminding about the plan. Some people need that hug from time to time just to feel safe and know that you got their back. And continue to reiterate that. And, as they ask questions, which a lot of my clients do like to kind of get in the weeds from time to time. And, we talk that out and try to be there for them.
Yeah, I think it's very important, especially right now, but I think it's throughout the year. And I think communication is a big key. A lot of times when you actually talk to clients, they don't hear from their advisor. And this is probably, when there's a little bit of volatility in the market, they just kind of want to be, I think they do want to be able to just, hey, that we are there and we are working and trying to meet whatever their needs are. We send out newsletters on a monthly basis. There's other communication that we actually do throughout the year. Obviously during this period of time, we just kind of want them to be reminded that we are looking out for them. I think it's one of the biggest things that we have. About every client we have is they have two things, and that one is a fixed indexed annuity. I'm not saying what portion of it is, but most of them have something in a fixed indexed annuity. And right now there is no stress on that. You're just not making any money. You're not losing any money. And then we also, about everybody has some type of buffered portfolio with us that's actually invested in the market. It might be showing down right now, but right now everything's within the buffers, which means if it ended today, they wouldn't actually lose any money and there'd be a lot of credit going back to them. I think buffers are a good way to be able to handle, especially as you age and as you become retired.
No, I completely agree. I think the other part that a lot of people might leave out with a fixed index annuity is, they have a reset, right? So at the end of that annual point to point, or let's say, the end of the year, wherever the market is, that annuity starts from zero. So if the market makes money from that position, that client is actually up rather than, being down 10% and needing an 11% return just to get back to net neutral.
That's
right.
exactly right.
So they have this like strategic advantage of safety and also a market reset every year, which I think is also really unique.
Yeah, I think that market reset, especially when you have a down market, I mean, normally when you have a bad market, it usually follows up with a pretty decent one. And by doing an annual reset like that, I mean, there's a good chance that, hey, you might not make money this year, but the following year, you might have a good chance to really meet some of your caps and things like that, because that's just kind of the way the market rolls.
Right. No, 100%.
How about trying to talk to clients about like risk allocation and asset allocation? How do you try to educate clients on that?
Well, I mean, firstly, when clients come in, and then obviously if we're doing any like financial strategy or management with them, we're doing an annual risk assessment, right? Because as we know, as humans, right, our lives tend to change. So every year we're updating that. We're going through kind of like the strategy and, potentially moving some things around, a rebalance if we need it. But a lot of the things is also setting like some realistic goals, because some people might want to do things and their risk just simply doesn't allow it. Especially if there's like major life events that they want to do, or like, let's say like investing for their kids or their grandkids, et cetera. So again, we're doing that on an annual basis. I'm renewing that risk assessment, going over goals that they may have. And the other big thing that I see is that everyone has this like mindset where they're going into retirement thinking it's going to be less expensive.
Well, and that's never the case, is it?
No.
I think the one thing I think people always forget about is they think that they can retire and today, say your monthly budget's $5,000 a month. They just think that they can retire at that, not knowing that, they have that silent killer called inflation, which means you need to increase your income every year by 2 to 3% in order to keep up with buying things.
Right.
And right now you might have to cut back on eggs, right?
I know the tariffs are supposed to help.
Yeah, they are supposed to help.
But I'll add to that. One thing I've been adding into the conversations about clients transitioning into retirement is I've been asking them like, hey, you think it's going to be cheaper, but what are you going to do with this new like 40 hours of time that you're going to have on a weekly basis? What are you going to do to fill that? Do you have activities, hobbies, other goals that you want to pursue? Do they cost money? If so, how much? And like 90% of the time, I feel like people are sitting back in their chair going like, oh, wait, I didn't actually think about that.
Well, Tony and I have talked about this quite a few times on the show. And I don't think if you talk to a person that works today and you ask them what's the most expensive days of the week when you're actually spending money, it's usually a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
When they're home.
And what people need to realize is every day in retirement is just like that. And if you don't watch it, you could be spending money very easily because you're bored, which is why you got to have a plan. A lot of people just think I got to have a financial plan, but you really got to have a plan on how you're going to spend your days in retirement. I mean, I like to golf, but I don't think I'm going to golf 7 days a week.
Right.
So, I mean, you're going to have to be able to fill that. Yeah, I might try.
But you're going to hit a wall. I know people who say, I can't wait to retire. I'm going to golf every day of the week, or I'm going to read all 50 books that I haven't read. I'm going to do this. And you hit a wall. If you just think you're going to golf or just going to read books or watch TV shows, you're going to hit a wall pretty quick.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So like,
in retirement, every day you have 6 Saturdays and a Sunday is what I've heard. 6 Saturdays and a Sunday.
Yeah.
That's your week, right? That's your week.
Is Sunday still the rest day then?
Yeah, Sunday is, some people.
Well, now it's the fun day, right?
Church,
Sunday fun day.
Sunday,
which could be an expensive day.
It could be too. Yeah. So for Sunday, usually people, I guess you're still going to spend money because you're going to eat out or whatever. But yeah.
So Cory, curiosity, because I don't think we've actually had this conversation. When you have clients that are actively, go still in that like accumulation phase, but getting close to transitioning to like distribution preservation. How are you kind of like framing it to them to say like, okay, hey, like our plan is now it's time to shift that. And, how do you kind of like help guide them in that scenario?
Well, I think there's a couple things that we have to do. I mean, one thing from a financial or from a money side standpoint of that, a lot of times we'll end up, depending on their situation, everyone's situation is a little bit different. But we start kind of laying that plan out, even when they become a client, is we might have multiple buckets for them. Some are short term, some are midterm, and obviously the long term is going to be the most aggressive that's in the market. But the one thing we want to be able to do is, when you retire and you start taking money out, I really don't care whether the market's up 5, 10, 20%. We still have to be able to give you some type of monthly distribution, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that we try to do is have those different buckets. And one of the buckets could be an annuity, depending on everyone's situation. When we're going to trigger that, it's a lot easier to work with someone that's been with us for 5 or 10 years rather than someone that shows up 3 months before saying I want to retire, because that's a short-term plan, but right. But we still have clients that we want to be able to do that with. And I think they have to understand, here's probably the biggest part, is you really have to fine-tune your budget, because you're going to a fixed income. And what a lot of people don't understand is, when we put together a plan, and say you want to pull $5,000 a month out, or whatever the number is, or you need $5,000 worth of income, then all of a sudden tax time comes up. They go, you know what? I need more money to pay property taxes, or I need more money to do this and do that. That should be part of your monthly budget. They don't understand, by taking out an additional $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a year, what type of impact that's going to have long term for them.
Right.
I don't know if that answered your question, but
no, yeah. I think it does. And we all kind of, we have a similar framing, but it's all like, hey, this is what's kind of worked, and clients have been able to accept this information. And it does kind of bring me back to something. You asked me earlier about risk, right? So I teach not only clients, but juniors a very kind of like specific scenario. So risk on my side and how I'm teaching it, it's always in 3 places, right? So risk is either on the asset, as you're kind of like explaining it to the client, right? So if you own an equity, it's 100% on the equity and 100% of those returns if they happen, right? And then 2, for example, we're talking about fixed annuities. We could also categorize in like CDs, and that risk would then be on the liquidity, right? So we have price protection, but we have limited access. And then the third one would be on the returns, right? So this would be like, yeah, you're 100% liquid, it's 100% safe, but it's sitting in your checking account making no money. And I feel like when we're kind of going through those like risk assessments, I use those 3 categories, especially, at our firm with our clients, to help them understand like, okay, hey, we're going into this annuity because we're taking the risk off the asset and putting it somewhere else.
Right.
Right. And that seems to help them kind of understand like, oh, okay, well, now this in multiple billion-dollar companies assuming the risk instead of me.
Right. Yeah, obviously, if you have zero risk, right, you're not going to be able to get the returns that you want on that too. But again, just like anything else, you got to be balanced or diversified on those types of risk levels, because you want things that will grow, and you want some things that won't grow as much, but that might be where you're getting your income in order to live today.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, that's where we talk about, we spread investments, right, in different asset classes, different sectors, and potentially different geographies.
Yep. Right. How about taxes? I mean, that's always a popular. I don't know anyone that came to me and said, "Hey, I want to pay more in taxes." It's always about how can I save taxes, right?
Or not pay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Or not pay anything,
or minimize that tax burden.
That's exactly right. And let's face it, the government's done a great job of being able to put all this money into 401ks that everyone saves into. And all that means you're going to pay taxes on it as long as you live. But when we start now putting together income plans for them to be able to pay the least amount of taxes, I mean, you have to try to be able to educate clients on what you're going to do for them to be able to hopefully long-term pay less taxes, even if they might have to pay a little bit more up front.
Right. So when you're saying like upfront, you're looking at like Roth conversions.
Yeah, Roth conversions, or moving it into life insurance, or maxing out your current tax bracket. Does it make sense to max out the 22 or maybe even go to the 24, just in order to pay the taxes now? And obviously there's a lot of questions we got to ask clients, right?
Yeah.
It might be whether you want to use it for income or whether you're trying to leave a legacy or what your true goals are. But taxes are a big part of it.
No, I completely agree. When I get a client that comes in, let's say already working with somebody, the first thing I ask them is like, hey, if you already have a financial plan in place, bring that with you. And the first thing I'm looking for is like, okay, where's the tax column? Like, how are we planning for our future tax obligation? I feel like a lot of people don't understand that, if they have $1 million in a 401k, they really only got about 700.
Yeah.
Give or take.
700,000-800,000, depending on what tax bracket you're going to be in.
Right. And what state you live in.
Exactly right.
So, and I deal a lot with, in Southern California. So we know that's
going to be like, 30% in taxes.
About 700 grand. Yeah. So, people knowing that they have this bill coming up, they do get a little bit more creative. They're more outside of the box. They're like, hey, what things can I do now? And we do look at sometimes doing some like immediate Roth conversions and going into some of these, growth bonus fixed index annuities to help kind of recover some of that expense on day one. But I think just understanding that, hey, you can continue to defer this tax, but you're also kind of deferring this to an unknown tax environment where we actually have no idea what that tax will be in the future.
Right.
And clients are like, well, when should I pay taxes? Now, today. I know what it costs. Right.
Right. It's not going to be any less.
No, there's just no way. Like, we don't bring in enough money as a country via our current tax revenues to not only service, but also like our extra spending that we have outside of the mandatories. Right.
Right. And sometimes they actually don't raise our taxes that we actually do our 1040s on. They're creative and do it in other ways, like the inherited IRA, for example. Right. You used to be able to take it out over your lifetime.
Yep.
Now you got to take it out over a 10-year period. So it's all about being, just because you don't hear that taxes didn't go up for one way or another, I guarantee you they're doing something else to be able to generate it. And the state taxes could be something they look at here in the future as well.
No, 100%. I think the other like really good example in that same lane is IRMAA.
Yep.
Where it's like, oh, well, we'll just change the rate of this fee whenever we want. And it's a percentage of your income. You're welcome.
Yep.
Right. So it's like there's ways. And, adjusting tax brackets is a really easy way to manipulate that. And also adjusting how you have to withdraw out of your qualified money accounts.
Exactly right.
And there's trillions of dollars in there. They're sitting over there thinking about it somehow. Like, how can we get access to this without pissing people off?
Yep. Yep.
I think
is that about it, Tony?
Yeah, we're almost out of time. So we should probably let our listeners know how they can get a hold of you to set up that no charge, no obligation consultation.
Yeah, for listeners and viewers out there, just give us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can always visit us online at safeharboroh.com. Again, we're here to help and guide you to make sure you have the best possible retirement that you can. Give us a call, visit our website, schedule a complimentary no financial obligation meeting with us. Again, we're here to help. And Jesse, I want to thank you for joining us today. And we'll do this again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, Jesse, great to have you on the show. A lot of great information, a lot of great input. Of course, with that beard, you're making me look bad. So I can't. Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep up with Cory.
That's right. That's right. All right, guys and listeners, that does it for today's episode of Financially Fit Radio with our host, Cory Sickles.
Thank you for joining us for Financially Fit Radio. Don't head into retirement without a strategy that addresses both income and taxes. For more information, please contact Cory Sickles at Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors at 614-760-0670 or visit safeharboroh.com now. Join us again soon for another episode of Financially Fit Radio.
Investment advisory services are offered by Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Investment Advisor. Insurance products and services are offered through Safe Harbor Retirement Group, LLC, an affiliated company. Safe Harbor Wealth Advisors, LLC, and Safe Harbor Retirement Group, LLC are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any government agency. All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.